If your cold calling setup is a struggle for you, in this video, I'll be dropping some gems on what your cold calling setup should look like, and I'll be giving you some of my top tips on how you can generate tens of thousands of dollars in your wholesaling business every single month. Let's get into it. Tip 1. Choose a dollar. Now, in the wholesaling cold calling world, you have three main options. I've used 2 of the 3 options that people mainly use whenever it comes to cold calling. You have call tools, you have batch dialer, and you have mojo dialer. Now, they all have their pros and cons. I choose call tools because it seems like it fits my business better, especially when it comes down to having virtual assistants and you want to whisper to your virtual assistants and guide them through calls, and just being able to call record included in the $99 price is something that I value a lot. Now, those are the pros for call tools. Some of the cons that I have with call tools is over the years it seemed like call tools have got a little bit more difficult to use because of the interface that they changed recently, and it's just another stepping stone. You got to realize if you're not changing along with the times, then you're getting left behind, so keep that in mind. Now, I used batch dialer for a while, but what made me cancel batch dialer was when it came to agent, you can't whisper to your agents, which I don't know if they changed that recently. Batch dialer is $139 per month if you want the multiple lines, or it's $89 per month if you want to do a single line. That's the options that you have with batch dialer. And other than that, it's a great dialer. But you know, like I said, I switched back to call tools. If you want to check out call tools, it's linked below. And mojo dialer I never used before, so I really can't give you any input on it. But I know mojo dialer starts at $149, and then you have add-ons. So if you wanted to record your calls in mojo dialer, you have to pay for that additional feature. And if you want multiple lines, I believe that price will be the $149 price. And if you had a single line, it would be less than that. So basically, those are the dollar options that you have. And like I said, I told you to recommend the one that I recommend and the one that I use, that I trust. Also, I know a lot of people say, hey, I can't afford to get a dollar right now. It just doesn't make sense for me in my business. And I'm gonna be honest, if you can't invest, $99 in your business, I completely understand. But if you do have $99 to put aside to where you could just get call tools, that is gonna make you a more efficient dollar. I'm pretty sure if you have been in the business and you decided that you want to cold call your leads one by one, most records have 3 to 4 phone numbers attached to it. So imagine dialing each individual number and waiting for it to ring for 30 seconds. You know how long it'll take you to get through a list of 1,000? While you're sitting there dialing a list of 1,000 by hand, I'm gonna be over there putting that list of 1,000 in my dialer, and I'm gonna be dialing 3 of those phone numbers at once, trying to get an answer. And the first line that picks up, the other 2 will drop off, and then I normally have the second and third number cycle back through. So basically, I'm dialing way more efficiently. So who you think will get a deal first, me or you? Of course, you would say me, because I'm dialing 3 lines at once to your 1, which it takes you even longer because you putting the phone numbers in each individual time. And even if you can just get the single line with batch dialer for $89, that's gonna be more efficient because you're still not dialing the numbers one by one. You're actually letting the computer cycle those calls through for you. So definitely try to put at least $99 aside just to get the ball rolling with your cold call setup. Now, if you enjoyed the content so far, please just hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, and that'll show YouTube that this video is valuable and they'll push it out to a larger audience. And also, leave a comment down below, let me know if you're cold calling in your wholesale business, and if not, let me know what's stopping you from actually getting started. Now let's get back into the video. Tip 2, schedule times for you to make calls throughout the week. I want you to picture this. Picture one person that only make calls whenever they feel like it. So let's say they make calls on Sundays for an hour or 2, and then they don't make calls again until Wednesday for 5 hours or 8 hours, but they are expecting some type of consistency. But then on the other hand, you have someone that has a set schedule every single day, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, where they make calls after work from 4 to 8 on Monday through Friday, and then they make calls from 12 to 6 on Sundays every day. Who you think gonna get consistent leads coming in every single day into their business. If you guess the person that is consistent, you're right, because they putting in consistent effort every single day. That's going to be very important to your cold calling setup, because it's not just about the softwares that you use in your cold calling business every single day. It's also about the effort that you put in and day out in order to generate leads, because the more leads that you generate, the more offers you'll be able to make and the more deals you'll be able to put under contract. So definitely keep that in mind. Tip 3, rotate your phone numbers. So I know you heard me say call tools is $99 per month. That's not including the phone numbers that you buy. Now, I would recommend putting $40, $50 a month aside just for phone numbers, so you can have a lot of phone numbers. You can have 10, 20, 30 phone numbers in rotation to use on your dialer every day. So my recommendation is put some of the phone numbers in rotation and let some of the other numbers rest. And then once you notice that your pickup ratio is starting to drop off, then you rotate those phone numbers out and bring in new phone numbers. And that's how you keep your phone numbers fresh. You have a lot of people, they would purchase phone numbers, and then once they get marked as spam, they release the phone numbers. I don't do that. What I do is I rotate the numbers out, let them sit for a while, bring in new numbers, and let those numbers die for a while until they get marked as spam, and then I rotate them out too. So imagine if you have a set of 6 or 7 phone numbers that you do that with every other day or every 3-4 days. You connecting with a seller is going to be better than someone that only has 5 phone numbers and they're using that every day of the week. So you got to keep that in mind whenever it comes to the phone numbers. And a lot of people message me saying that they have issue with their phone numbers being marked as spam. You can also check to see if the numbers that you have are currently marked as spam before you even purchase the phone numbers, and that's going to save you money as well too, because like I said, you got to let those phone numbers rest whenever they are marked as spam. So check the phone numbers before you purchase them, and purchase as many as you can so you can have a certain amount of rotation that you can rotate out whenever that time comes and you notice that your numbers are marked as spam. Now, tip 4, hire a virtual assistant to make calls for you in your wholesaling business. This is going to be ideal. But what I recommend, if you're just starting out, don't hire virtual assistants to make calls in your business, because how can you train somebody to make calls if you don't really know how to make calls yourself? I say after you make thousands of calls and you spent a few months on the dialer and you know how to identify the different seller types and you got your first deal in the contract and you went through the whole process of getting it closed, that's when you bring a cold caller on. And see, what I do, I haven't given up my seat in call tools. I just add an additional seat in call tools for my virtual assistant to make calls. So while my virtual assistants are making calls, if I decide that I want to hop on a dialer, if I have free time, I'm going to hop on a dialer along with my virtual assistant and make calls as well. So imagine if you're making calls and your virtual assistants are making calls. They're bringing in 3 leads and you bringing in 3 leads a day as well. That's 6 leads a day. If it only takes you 20 leads to close a deal, you're going to get closer to a deal by you making calls alongside with your cold caller as well too. Now, of course, you're working on firing yourself from different roles in your wholesaling business, but there's nothing wrong with you hopping on the dollar sometime if that's something that you want to do. Now, another thing, you need to make sure that you understand your virtual assistant is an extension of yourself. So you can only teach your virtual assistant what you know about cold calling. So if you don't know much about cold calling because you haven't made a lot of calls and you don't know how to identify the different personality types, how can you teach them more than what you actually know? So that's why I say it's important that you take the time and make calls on your own. You get a couple of properties under contract, or at most, just make sure that you got a solid understanding for the cold call process so you can train your virtual assistants to be a very good extension of yourself. So now we know that a virtual assistant can definitely be an asset to your cold calling setup. If you're looking for another way to generate leads in your wholesaling business, definitely feel free to check out my SMS text blasting video here. And it'll show you the different ways that you can generate leads through text blasting. Now let's get into tip 5. Tip 5, I mentioned this before, but please make sure whatever service you use, even if you got to get it as an add-on, make sure you record your calls. The reason why recording your calls is so important is because if you're a one-person operation and you're making calls and you're trying to learn how to identify the different personality types and you're trying to get a structure to how your call should flow, this is going to be very important, because at the end of the day, after you've made your calls for the day, you can put time aside for you just to listen to each individual call where you actually spoke with a seller. You can potentially identify where you didn't build rapport, where you should have built rapport, where you should ask certain questions. And as you listen to your recorded calls, when you get new calls with similar situations, you will know how you need to communicate with that particular seller. And recording your calls is also very, very important whenever you're dealing with a virtual assistant, because as you train them and as time goes along and they continue to advance in your wholesaling business, you want to make sure that you're listening to your virtual assistant call, because you can schedule times once a week to go over some mistakes that they made so they'll know on the next call how they should handle the situation. So it'll be a win-win for you and your virtual assistant, because you'll actually be putting in the time to improve your virtual assistant cold calling skills or improving your cold calling skills. So those are my 5 tips. And make sure if you do decide to use call tools, like I said, the interface can be a little tricky. Make sure that you sign up for the onboarding call, because that's going to be helpful. And Call Tools actually has a lot of training videos. And if you actually spend the time up front to learn how the interface works and how the software actually works, that's going to put you ahead of everybody else. A lot of people, whenever they get new softwares, they don't put the hours aside to figure out how it properly works. And guess what? In the long run, they have to eventually do it anyway, because they'll never know if they don't do it. Or some people don't even use the software to its full potential because they don't take the time and figure out how to properly use it. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time.